straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
Today on Light of the Word with Pastor Ray.
Hey, Christian, there will be consequences always for bad decisions, human logic, humans' schema that we come. But I want you to know this, even in your failings, the lowest of your failings, the ones that you think, he will never speak to me again. He has cast me off. I might get into heaven by the skin of my teeth, but for him walking with me and holding me and loving me and comforting me, that's over. Because what I just did, and it's not true.
Open your heart to us, Lord, so we can know your word. We come before you, Jesus. Speak to our hearts as we discover your love for us. How wide, how deep, how far. Pouring to us so we can learn to follow. One surrender at a time. You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
What is it that you're clinging to that's keeping you from surrendering your whole self to God? Israel's King Saul clung to the authority and position God had removed from his life due to disobedience. It was time for God's chosen man, David, to take the throne. But Saul resisted and rebelled against the Lord's will. As Pastor Ray points out in today's message, we are frequently confronted with the same decision in our own lives. Will we resign our own will and desires to the perfect will of God, or cling to it and let our rebellion drag us down? Well, let's join Pastor Ray for today's edition of Light of the Word from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 29.
So we are in 1 Samuel chapter 29. 1 Samuel chapter 29. The recap where we've been last week, we spent a lot of time in the life of Saul, the whole chapter there. And here's where we're at. We're into the last 24 hours of the life of Saul. Before the next sunset, Saul will be dead. After 15 years of usurping, of 15 years of holding on to what wasn't his, the kingdom was ripped out of his hand just as Samuel said it would be. Now he's into his last 24 hours. And we'll pick up on his life again in the chapter to come and there in chapter 31. He was the focus last chapter. This chapter is focused on David, and so too the next chapter. David will be king in 24 hours, maybe 2-3 days, depending how you want to do the math. After 15 years of the promise, David is now on his way to become the king. And we come into this chapter, it's 11 verses. And many times it's just a pass through. Here's where David was. He showed up and he was going to battle. They send him home and the real story starts coming. Let's get to Saul being come to his end. Let's get to David becoming to the king. But you know, there's 1,189 chapters. There's 31,102 verses in this book that you hold in your hand. And yet God would choose and deem it that of 1,189 chapters, he would make sure that we had this chapter and these 11 verses. Of all that could be said, he wanted to make sure this story, David aligning himself and showing up for the battle with the Philistines, going to battle against the Israelites. And you know, we can say, hey, 1,189 chapters, that's a lot. But, you know, when I was in college studying jet engine technology, I mean, my books were 5-6 times just on the jet engine technology. Get into airframe technology 5-6 times. Just get into the control systems 5-6 times bigger than this Bible. And yet what this Bible holds in our hand is the whole counsel of God. God gives us this whole counsel of God on how we should live and how we can live the abundant life, how we can live in the victorious life, and how we can live in power. And yet he would give us, out of 1,189 verses, he gives us these 11 verses, which are almost, we can say, well, that was a nice story, but here's what God's doing. Last week, he gave a comparison of Saul, and this week he's given us a comparison of David in literally the last 24 hours of their moment in time. Saul's last 24 hours on earth, David's last 24 hours before he will become king. And God lines these stories up, and last week in the tapes online and the notes, we looked at the life of Saul, and we came to, what was it, Saul? All the gifting, all the talent, all the promises of God. You were the king of Israel, God's apple of his eyes, and you were chosen and appointed and anointed by God to be the first king. And what was it that the last 24 hours of your life, a culmination, you're having your last meal with the witch? You'll lay prostrate when the word comes that your time has come. You'll lay out all 7 foot of your body in sorrow and mourning, but you won't curl yourself up onto your knees and lift your hands before the holy God and say, even if you take my life, I can take this moment and ask you to be my God. We read nothing of that. And we leave him and live in the wonderment. What happened to him? To which I don't know. I think God leaves that for us so that everyone would make a decision. If, like Saul, my life came to the last 24 hours, would I be sure that I would see God when I take my last breath? Would my sins be forgiven, and would I be an entryway into heaven? So every man has a decision. Every woman has a decision if they're going to give their life and bow down before the holy God, receive his gift of salvation. So Saul, we just came to it. It wasn't worth it. Jesus Christ just wasn't worth it. That's how I could sum up his whole life. You just wasn't worth me giving my life, serving you and pouring my life out. Well, we come into a chapter today, and it's a side-by-side, and we're going to look at David. He's going to line himself with the Philistines. He's going to come ready to go to war against his countrymen. And I sit there, and I have to ask the same question. Like I said, Saul, what was it? What was it, Saul? And I have to look at David if I was standing before David and go, David, what was it? I mean, how did you end up here, David? What was it that would bring you to this place, David? Because what we're going to see, and you know the story, David now, in the last 16 months, he's living to his logic. He's making his own schemes. He's trusting in himself. And does that sound anything like maybe me and you? My schemes, my logic, this makes so much sense. Well, David's going to find himself, oh, what a place, what a place. Every study that I do, every time, the first thing I do when I sit down before the word is I outline it. I outline, and I'm not looking theology or doctrine. I'm just going, what's the main point? Then what's the next main point? Then what's the next main point? I outline it so I can see big buckets of how it transitions from thought to thought, point to point. Verse 1, the Philistines gather for war against Israel. Verse 2, the Philistines' troops are reviewed. These are all things we'll read through. Next, the princes of the Philistines object to David's presence, verse 3 and 5. Verse 6 through 7, King Achish of the Philistines sends David away. Verse 8, David objects to being sent away. Verse 9, the Philistine King Achish praises David for his faithfulness. And then lastly, verse 10 and 11, David returns to the land of the Philistines. You're the next king. You've been promised to be the next king. You've been described as a man after God's own heart. And yet I look at the first point. The Philistines gather for war against the Israelites. And David's with them. Just the outline speaks to me. What's going on, David? And then we read there in verse 9, the king of the Philistines, the mortal enemies of Israel. And that king praises David for his faithfulness. David, what happened? What is this? And then lastly, when David returns, he returns to the land of the Philistines. You're the king. You're called to be the king. And you're going to return to the land of the Philistines when your countrymen face their mortal enemies. What was it, David? God's going to speak a lot. That's why I chose not to cruise quickly through this, because I think there is such a deep message for every one of us. I know there was for me. And so verse 1, the Philistines gather in war against Israel. Then the Philistines gathered together all their armies at Aphek, and the Israelites encamped by a fountain which is in Jezreel. Notice that it says armies plural. Just a reminder, back in 1 Samuel 6, there was 5 major cities of the Philistines, and we'll read there's 5 lords of the Philistines. And so what we're reading here is armies plural, and we are reading large armies, very large armies gathering to come against the children of Israel. Verse 2, and the lords of the Philistines passed by in review by hundreds and thousands, but David and his men passed in review at the rear with Achish. Oh, David, you're in such a pickle here, aren't you? Your logic, your schema. I'm going to leave Judah, where I was told by the prophet Gad to stay. But if I stay here, Saul's going to kill me. I'm going to go to the land of the Philistines, the mortal enemy of my God. I'm going to go down there because I think I can find some relief. I think I can find myself in a place where Saul won't seek me and kill me. But now here David is, with his logic and his schema, he finds himself in this place. Now you're being called to go fight against your own countrymen, your own blood. Let me say, it's a horrible decision, David. It's a shocking decision that you've made. As we said last week in the study, as we talked about David, is every decision has a destination. And this is David's decision. It's brought him to this destination. And so we need to slow down. We need to be wise. We need to seek the Lord. We do nothing. The Son can do nothing of himself. We studied in John 5 in these last couple weeks as we weave these things, as God weaves these things together, except what he sees the Father do, the heart of the Father. David's not following the heart of the Father by any means, and here he comes. His logic and his schemes and what he thinks is the right thing to do is put him in this place. But here's what I want to say for us to remember. He's still a child of God. God never leaves him. God never forsakes him. God never casts him away and say, man, that was too far. We're done. Me and you, we're done. Hey, Christian, there will be consequences always for bad decisions, human logic, human's schema that we come. But I want you to know this, even in your failings, the lowest of your failings, the ones that you think, he will never speak to me again. He has cast me off. I might get into heaven by the skin of my teeth, but for him walking with me and holding me and loving me and comforting me, that's over. Because what I just did. And it's not true. The life of David's going to prove it. God gives us, no one is spoken more of in the scriptures beside Jesus than David. 66 chapters dedicated to him because he's real flesh and blood, and he's someone that we can relate to. And God won't cast him off. And so keep that in mind no matter where you've been, no matter how far you've gone. But here it says that the lords of the Philistines, and as we had said back in chapter 6, we know there's 5 major lords of the Philistines. There's 5 major armies here. Achish is one of them. And I want you to see this. 5, not 4, not 3, not 2. 5 lords of the Philistines gathered together to come and to wipe out. And we studied last week, they know Israel is vulnerable. Saul is weak. The nation of Israel's war machine is weak. They've spent more time chasing David than they have been fighting and training. We studied last week, David's paying tribute by raiding these other nations, and he's given money to King Achish to and just build up the strength of the war machine of the Philistines. Israel is vulnerable, and the Philistines are ready to do a final number. And I want you to see 5, not 4, not 3, not 2. They were in unified agreement of one thing. Let's go wipe them out. There was no civil war. They all had a purpose and agreement, and that was to rid Israel of the land. I want you to know, Christian, there is no civil war in hell. The evil one and his henchmen, they are in unified agreement of this one thing, and that is destroy, kill you. Wipe out your family, take your kids and make them go follow the things of the world. Anything that has to do with pointing to Christ, that's what they're unified to come and destroy. What do? We wrestle not against flesh and blood. When the enemy comes in like a flood, Isaiah 59:19, we must come into the things of the Spirit. We're not going to win this battle by clever schemes or by organization. We need to come and we need to make prayer the heart of our lives. We need to get on our knees and say, Lord, the enemy is coming in like a flood, and I can't fight him alone by myself. I need you, Lord, to show up here. And look how organized they are. It proves their training. They come by hundreds and they come by thousands. It doesn't just paint a picture for us to see, oh, this huge army is coming, but they're coming by hundreds and they're coming by thousands. They are organized. They are purposed for victory, and they are purposed to bring the defeat, and they are well trained. And again, I want to say Satan is organized. He is well trained. And you know what? I don't know how long you've been alive. I don't know how long you've been saved. But all I know is Satan's got about 6,000 years head start on you. On how to attack you, on how to whip you, and how to come against you. So regardless of how long you've been alive or saved, he's got the advantage on you with all the experience. I know this works here well in the United States of America. When I go work in Cambodia, I know this is what works well against the people of Cambodia. Oh, I know what works well against your age, and you're single, and you're a youth, and you're in the high school, you're in a workplace. I know what works well. He's well trained, he's organized, and here they come. In verse 3 through 5, the Philistines, they see David. They ain't going for that. Verse 3, then the princes of the Philistines says, what are these Hebrews doing here? It's a slur. And Achish said to the princes of the Philistines, is this not David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me these days and these years? 16 months is how long we know that is back in chapter 27. And to this day I have found no fault in him since he defected to me. But the princes of the Philistines were angry with him. So the princes of the Philistines said to him, make this fellow return that he may go back to the place which you have appointed for him. And do not let him come down and go to battle with us, lest the battle he becomes our adversary. For with what could he reconcile himself to his master, if not with the heads of these men? Is this not David, of whom they sang to one another in dances, saying, Saul has slain his 1,000 and David is 10,000? David would have been fighting for Saul. We're not sure how many years he was on the last run from Saul, but maybe 5 years, even if we go 10. Look, there's not a man in this army who is showing up for battle who has not lost a brother, a father, a comrade at the hands of David. They know what David can do. And they said, man, he turns on us and starts taking our heads. What a perfect way for him to be reconciled back to Saul. But every one of these would know David. He took my dad. This man killed my brother, my fellow brother in arms as we went to war. He took him out. This man's a threat. Interesting, just an interesting note there in verse 4, that word adversary is where you get the Hebrew word for Satan. They consider David like a Satan. This is how the word morphed into Satan. He's your adversary. But it is interesting to me, and I think maybe some of you have been there. They're saying, what's he doing here? Isn't it interesting that the Philistines knew that David was in the wrong place, but David didn't know that he was in the wrong place? Ever been there? And I'm sure you would love me to share a personal story, but I won't. But have you ever been there where someone says to you, what are you doing here? I thought you was a Christian. Boy, it got hot in here. Well, I thought you were one of those followers of Christ. What are you doing right here with us in this environment? And I won't go into details and examples, but I think you know. It's interesting that the world knows when they see us going, what are you doing here? It is humbling, and I'm glad God does humble us in such a way. Verse 6 and 7, then Achish called David and said to him, surely as the Lord lives, notice that's capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, that's for Jehovah, God of Israel. Surely as the Lord lives, you have been upright and you're going out and coming in with me and the army in the good in my sight. For to this day I have not found evil in you since the day of your coming to me. Nevertheless, the Lords do not favor you. Therefore, return now, go in peace, that you may not displease the lords of the Philistines. David had deceived Achish. We studied that in chapter 27. He would go and raid the Amalekites and the enemies of Israel, but he would come back to Achish, and Achish would say, hey, where were you battling? Oh, man, I was going down against the children of Israel. I was wiping them out. And we know that David would, when he would go against the Amalekites and the type, he'd kill them all. He'd leave nobody that could escape and come and tell the king, oh, no, David wasn't down in Judah. He was up in killing Amalekites. So he's got the king deceived. He's put this lie in front of the king. But I do find it interesting. Here comes the lords of the Philistines, and they say, get him out of here. I'll just tell you, eventually the world will kick you out. Eventually the world will realize you don't fit in, and the world will kick you out, and David's getting kicked out by the world. But you know what, David, what a disservice you've done to the king. And I know we read these passages and it's the enemy of Israel. I just want to tell you that the heart of God, and it's been so misunderstood, the people, the Canaanites, whatever the flavor of the nation was, living in the promised land, they were not, God's command wasn't to wipe them out. God's command was to drive them out. And if they wouldn't go, then they would pay with their life. But they had the opportunity to leave, but they chose not to. And what I want to say here is Achish was still a human being. Achish was still a man who could accept the one true God. He's speaking in the same language as David. Oh, as the Lord lives, and you could translate, as the God of Israel, as Jehovah God lives, David.
You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the word.
Thanks for tuning in today to Light of the Word. This message from Pastor Ray Bolus is part of a larger series that is giving us a new understanding of the Old Testament book of 1 Samuel. If you missed any part of the teaching or would like to explore more from Light of the Word, you'll be able to do so at our website, ccaac.org. Search through our library of audio messages from books of the Bible, special topics, and guest speakers, or take a look through Pastor Ray's message notes. You'll also find a link on our homepage to download our mobile app to take these teachings with you on the go. If you have any questions about this program or would like to share a prayer request with us, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at mail@ccaac.org. That's mail@ccaac.org. We're honored to lift up our valued listeners in prayer, and we commit to do that for you as well. Are you part of a church family? Engaging in the Word with other believers is a great way to show your faith while finding and being able to give support. If you're in the Anne Arundel County, Maryland area, come join us at Calvary Chapel of Anne Arundel County. Visit ccaac.org for service times and details. We're excited to see you there. Thanks again for tuning in today for Light of the Word, illuminating the heart of God.